Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Arthritis Action Podcast. I'm Marc, as always, your host, and today I'm joined by my colleagues, Leah and Terry. Welcome both.
Hello.
Hiya.
And we're back for series 2 now, which is pretty awesome. So popular that you guys wanted more of it, so we are happy to oblige. So that's grand. Today, we're talking about something that is probably most relevant for those of you out there who are newly diagnosed, but it's also really important for anyone who's previously been diagnosed, no matter how long. Maybe it's a bit of a refresher, maybe there's a few things you didn't know at all. So we're talking about what happens next. So if you have arthritis now, so where do you go from here? What do you do now? And it's something that we get asked a lot. I'm sure loads of you have had to go through this or will be going through this at some point. So I think probably the logical starting point then would probably be like a priority order. So what's the first thing that you kind of need to do once you've been diagnosed?
I think it's getting an idea of the name of your condition and what you can do to manage it. So where do you have it? Is it in your hips or your knees or your shoulders? Is it osteoarthritis? Is it rheumatoid arthritis? Who's around you medically to be able to assist with that? And is there a plan in place for moving forward to help you self-manage the symptoms?
Exactly. And I think that, if you've just been given a diagnosis, you are speaking to a healthcare professional, whether that's, the GP's phoned you up or you've gone in for your appointment or you're speaking to the rheumatologist in the hospital. You might initially be a bit shocked, but it's actually whilst they're in the room or on the phone. Okay, well, what type do I have, and how do I manage this now that I've got it? Is it self-management type of thing, or is it I need medication? How do I manage it? It's actually grabbing the person that's there, telling you what you've got.
Yeah, because there's over 200 types of arthritis. So each one's going to have its own sort of intricacies and different things that you'll need to know about it. And one thing we've heard a lot from people is that they just get told, you've got arthritis on your way. And then they just that's all they find out. So as you say, finding out what you have and do you need to follow up more? Can they tell you it now? Because they might not be able to tell you straight away, exactly what it is. So where do you go next? You have to ask them some of these times, because unfortunately, not every doctor is going to be great and proactive and do this for you. Sometimes you're going to have to ask these questions yourself. I go, right, so how do we find out exactly what type it is? Do I need another appointment? Where do I need to go next? And asking more stuff, being proactive about it.
And also what are your levels of pain, and will you be in pain all of the time? Will you have flare-ups? I think learning how to manage your pain in a way that works for you. And I think understanding that what you do to manage it might feel like a trial and error process. Something might work for a few weeks, but then that might stop working. You have to move on to something else as well. And I think having those healthcare professionals around you, particularly at the beginning, that can be really important to help you see more of an outlook really of how it might affect you.
And I think having that sort of initial diagnosis could knock you back a bit, and you could just, there's either, the fight or flight mode, and sometimes you go within yourself and think, and hide under a duvet. But actually your life story doesn't end there, and I think it's with something like arthritis, you need to be proactive. You need to have that sort of fight attitude and, start working at it and keep at it, rather than say, right, I'm going to take 2 or 3 or 4 weeks out just to let this settle. Let's be proactive and get going with managing this condition.
Yeah, when it comes to say doing your own research, that's definitely important to do as well. I mean, that's also where the waters get super muddy, because going on the internet and finding out stuff like that it's a minefield out there. There's so many different sites out there. So it would be go to our website. That's probably the first sort of easiest one to look at, because we've got a bunch of stuff on our one. And there's also, but check out some of the other organizations as well. First is Arthritis, another charity. They have great resources as well, a bit more information on different types of arthritis. You just check out some of the more accredited sources, like the NHS has loads of information on their website as well. They've got whole sections of their website dedicated to arthritis and all the different types as well, so that if you want to look a bit more into each one, try all of sort of those places first. Try like the proper accredited organizations, because obviously there'll be loads of them you'll find out there that'll have all these miracles and quick fixes and magical things that if you just take this wonderful pill, then everything will be right and everything will go away and you'll be back to normal. But usually those things come with the price tag. They're not necessarily truthful, shall I say. I'll try and play that as sensitively as I can. Sometimes they're just lying to you. Who knows? There's different things on the internet, but if you go to the proper accredited websites and proper accredited sources, then they can give you sort of some proper information that you can then maybe take back to your doctor and then sort of have a further dialogue with them about it. Now that you've gone back, you're a bit more knowledgeable yourself, and then you can talk to them like on a bit more of a level playing field and ask some further questions now that your knowledge has progressed a bit as well.
That's a really good point. I think if it sounds too good to be true, we say this a lot to a lot of people, then it probably is. And I think we always say that arthritis is something that can be managed, but it can't be cured. So that at this moment in time, so that's always something important to remember. If you see something peddling a cure, more than likely it's not going to work in the way that you would expect it to.
We're trying to say that as nicely as possible.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sort of shady things on the internet, basically, that will try and sort of pry on people who are looking, like, understandably looking for something that's, is very devastating and very life altering to have arthritis. And a lot of people are preying upon that. Not everyone, because of course there are some very good things you can do. But, if you want to know a little bit more about, like, say, diets and supplements, we did do an episode on that in the first series. So do go back and look into our diet and nutrition episode in series 1, where our nutritionist talks a lot about various supplements. So if you want to know more about that, then that's a really good place to look for it. There's also some stuff on our website as well.
Yeah, no, and it is important, like, when you know that you have what type of arthritis you have, and we'll choose the most common types. So you've got rheumatoid, and you've got osteoarthritis. It's important to look at those organizations that you can find out more about. So there's NRAS, the National Rheumatoid Arthritis Society. It might be that you are looking for a community to join, and I know Arthur's Place is a great sort of social community for people with arthritis. A lot of great information on there. You've got NAS, which are the national, and I'm gonna read it out because that'll be the good things. National Axial Spondyloarthritis Society, NAS for short. So yeah, just it's important to find out these organisations that have the specialist knowledge and information for you. So yeah, or join one of our groups. I
was going to say, yeah, don't forget. Most importantly, Arthritis Action groups. Like, if you want a community, they're a really good one for it. So you can. We've had a lot of people that have come to them who are newly diagnosed and have no idea what to expect. And it gives a good place where you can talk to a whole bunch of other people that maybe have had arthritis for the last 20 years or something. And I do remember one group where someone had come along, it was their first time, and they were quite low sort of in mood, because like the effects had come on quite rapidly of arthritis. So their lives had changed very quickly and didn't really know what to expect. I thought, right, this is it. That's all it's going to be then. But by the end of the group, they were chatting to some really positive people in it who've had it for a long time. And you can see them asking, like, wait, so you really do all this stuff? Yeah, of course we do. We haven't changed. We still carry on doing all this, just do a couple of things a bit differently. And it then sort of made them realize that, oh, right, it's not over. There's still so much more I can do. I've just got to change the way that I do things. And I think that, that's a really important thing to remember, is that, like, I mean, we've said it so many times before, like, your life isn't over. The way that you do things will be different, but different isn't necessarily bad. Different can be a good thing as well, because maybe from trying something different, you find something new that you never would have tried otherwise that becomes a great passion of yours. But yeah. Nothing's ever over. It's always there's always just a new chapter to move into. So as well as the organizations that are available out there, there's a lot of self-referral pathways out there as well. So I don't know if you guys want to tell them about any of the different things like that are available.
Yeah, I think you've got to find out what's available within your local area. It's really important to do some research, whether that's social activities, medical pathways. So, for example, if you want physiotherapy in your area, you might not necessarily have to see your GP. It might be something that you can self-refer into, which is really great, and they'll be able to help you with different exercises and mobility and function. So it's about knowing what's there. Even asking other people, asking your neighbours, they might have gone through the same thing. So it can really that's where community support is really important. But you might also want to get involved in, say, some exercise classes or some local activities, and that's where social prescribing can come in really handy. So sometimes that's operated through the GP, sometimes it's run independently. So if you Google social prescribing and your area, I'm sure something will come up, and you'll get a kind of new insight really into everything that's going on around you, and then it's up to you as to what you might want to try.
I think there's, when you're going through some pain and joint pain, and the doctor has talked about a referral to physiotherapy. Given the current referral times, you might want to think about trying to find something sooner. So there are private physiotherapists in the community, but again, they might be, in the current climate with cost of living, they might be a bit expensive. But there is a social enterprise called Freehab. So there's a play on words there. So there's no cost, it's free, and the hab is taken from rehabilitation. So it's a social enterprise, and basically, essentially, they're either NHS physios or private physios that provide that service in their own time. They would love a donation, but there is no cost to the service, and they'll do an assessment, and they'll give exercises for you to do to basically rehabilitate and strengthen those joints. So that's another great service. So if you can't wait the few months before you're referred NHS physio, or you can't afford the private physio in the community, or there isn't a physio nearby, Freehab is a really good resource.
Excellent. Another one that's quite useful for people to do is we have a one called Good Boost. So the Good Boost Move Together app is something that we help trial and we've been quite involved in. And you download it on your phone or on your tablet, and it gives you like a set of exercises that you can do, and you can follow along there. Just answer loads of questions, and then it gives you like a customized workout based on your abilities, energy levels. Like it's really good. It's really good. We run these twice a week, and they're definitely worth doing as well. It's nice and low impact. And one of the beauties of doing things like that is you can do it from the comfort of your own home. You can go at the pace that suits you, and there's no pressure to do it. You can do as much or as little of it as you want. So there's loads of really good options for things like that. You can do while you wait for something like, a physio appointment or an osteo appointment, whatever it is that you're in line for. And another thing that you can mention as well is occupational therapy is a really useful thing. So basically, for those who don't know, what an occupational therapist will do is they'll come to your home, or they'll do it over the phone. They'll look around your house. They see what adjustments can be made. So these are available sort of like via the council, but obviously what level of funding and everything you have in your area will vary. So you'll kind of have to you can speak to your GP about this as well, or also contact the council. And they'll come to your house, go through do you need some handrails put in, and what adjustments can they make to your home? Do the doors need switched? Do you need anything added into the bath or the shower, or do you need a new toilet fitted or something like that? Depending on the level of funding, of course, the amounts of work that they can do will be different in each area. So I can't guarantee they're going to do any of this for you, but it's worth doing, and they can at least sort of point you in the direction of various things within your area. They're just a really invaluable resource that if you can get an appointment with one. But again, speak to your GP, or I think you can also do it through the council as well.
And councils have some really helpful services, particularly arthritis is a disability. You're living with a lot of pain. There might be some payments or benefits that you're entitled to, whether that's a blue badge for your car to kind of help you get out and about, meaning you can park a little bit nearer to where you're going, personal independence payment, things like that. So it's definitely worth looking to see if there's anything that you can claim for within your council, and also if you're at work as well, kind of access to work to kind of help you carry on with your job, and to make sure that you're comfortable, whether that's any equipment that you might need, or flexi time, or a general understanding from your employer. That can be really helpful. And again, access to work. And we do have a podcast about work as well, but that's government funding, so it's really helpful to do research to learn about what you might be entitled to.
And your local Citizens Advice Bureau will help with that as well as just phoning up your local council and seeing how far you can get there. But yeah, definitely the Citizens Advice Bureau will be a great source of information for that.
Cool. Excellent. I mean, there's one other thing I suppose we haven't really touched on yet. After you've been diagnosed, I mean, like, where are you in your life? You know, like, how old are you? Because arthritis can happen at any age as well. I think that's another thing we've tried to stress plenty of times, is that despite the common misconception that it's just for older people or something like that, it's flat out not true. You know, you can get it at any age. So once, you know, you have that diagnosis, or, you know, you feel that you do have it and are going to get diagnosed, you know, looking like, where are you in life? Like, as Leah mentioned a minute ago, like, work. Is work something you've now got to start considering? You know, do you have to make adjustments for that? As she said, we've got an episode already about that in series 1. I feel like we're plugging ourselves a lot here, but I can't really apologize. I'm going to keep doing it.
Because we're great. That's why, Marc. We've got everything. We've got most things for everyone. So there you go.
It feels like we've, you know, really put some effort into this and have all these resources available already prior to this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Work is definitely going to be a consideration, or, you know, maybe like where you are, like if you've got kids or grandkids or however, whatever you have there, like, what are you going to have to do with that? Do you have to start thinking about how you may need to change a few things around? Are you going to be able to, like, do the same things you used to be able to do? Or, like, is there going to be perhaps a timeline when you think these things might change? So starting to look ahead and, like, not again worrying that, oh, I'm never going to be able to play with my kids again. That's not sort of the point I'm getting at. What I mean is that you need to start looking into, are you going to have to start to adjust the way you do things to make sure that you can still do everything you need to do, but then start to do it in a different way, perhaps. And, you know, maybe that means, like, you know, having the grandkids a little bit less. Maybe it means you look into like a bit more sort of like childminding or something like that. Should, like, you know, you need a bit more rest, or work's a bit more difficult now that things might be a bit slower through, like, you know, extended hours or changing your hours or something like that. Just, there's so many different things to factor in. It's going to be different, of course, for each person.
A helpful tip might be to look at, you know, wherever you are in life, whether, you know, you're in employment, as you say, Marc, whether you have family yourself, or, you know, whether there's grandchildren involved, and, you know, it might be you're looking at, you know, your hobbies as well, you know, what needs to change there. And I think some of it is sitting down and having a word with yourself, saying, right, let's make a list of what's important, what the priorities are. And some of it is just being really honest and open with, you know, with those people involved in your life. So whether it's work, it's actually saying, right, well, I need to speak to, you know, your HR team or your manager and say, you know, this is what's going on. This has happened. And I think, you know, there needs to be some reasonable adjustments made. And this is what I think needs to happen. It might be you're a grandparent and you actually say, right, dear, I might not be able to look after the kids as much, you know, especially when, you know, I might be going through a bit of a flare up of pain, and just, you know, preparing people. No one really likes surprises. Okay. So, you know, it's, unless, you know, it's Christmas and birthdays, but no one really likes those surprises where they're put in a position where it's difficult. So actually saying, do you know what, there might be times when I won't be able to look after kids, and this is what might need to happen. So it's being honest, thinking about solutions. So it's not, you're not going to someone and say, right, here's the problem, you sort it out. Here's a problem, and this is what I think might need to happen. So it's actually, here's a problem and here's a possible solution. So yeah, just thinking about those things and write a list and just being honest, you know.
And communication is key. And I think it's really important to ask for help. Like those people around you, they'll most probably want to help you. It's not something that being diagnosed with arthritis isn't necessarily something that you have to cope with on your own. It might be just, even if you're due to go out for a walk with your friend and you're thinking, oh gosh, I don't know if I can do this, it's going to be too far, telling them your limits or the pain that you're experiencing, because it's not something they're able to guess, or they're not going to know how you feel unless you tell them. It can make it worse if you struggle on alone, and then it gets to a point where you're not able to do that anymore, and emotions can really be heightened. So it's really, we hear from a lot of people that say, oh, no one's around to help me. But again, they don't know how you feel unless you tell them. And it's like Terry said, having those open conversations. It might feel difficult and it might feel like it's taking a lot of courage to do that. But once you kind of do it, and you'll know that they've got an understanding. So if you're having a flare up and you just say, oh no, I can't come tonight, but if you tell them why, if you're experiencing pain, they're most likely going to be more understanding and find ways that they might be able to help you. And that takes a load off your shoulders as well.
That also goes into, like I said, another thing that's really important. I love the list making as well. By the way, that's something I do like to recommend to loads of people as well. Like the more lists you can make of stuff, it sounds like, I don't know, too formal or whatever you may think about it, but it really does make a difference if you can visually prioritize like what you need to do. And planning for the future is something that you're now definitely gonna have to start doing, like especially if you are newly diagnosed. As like boring as that might sound, like, you know, planning for your future, and it might seem like it's taking away all the spontaneity out of your life or something, but it will definitely make a big difference when you know what you can, because if you've got like a limited amount of energy, you want to prioritize what you're going to be able to do with it. And so the further sort of advance you can look into that, the better. So, you know, like, as we've already kind of mentioned, like adjustments to your house, is that something that maybe you need to look at? You know, is like, you know, is there like a really big step going into it? Maybe you've just like been diagnosed with like osteoarthritis in your knees. Is that step going into your house going to be a problem in a year's time? So maybe you need to start thinking about that now, if it's something you can change, or your living situation is like, you know, if you're on the top floor of a block of flats and you don't really have a working lift, is that something that's going to be an issue in future? And of course, I'm not saying that, you know, everyone's got unlimited money and just go buy yourself a ground floor bungalow somewhere and everything will be wonderful, because I'm aware that the world doesn't work like that. But again, start to look into these things and start to plan these things. Is there anything you can do about it? And if so, then start to move towards that way. But, you know, it's more about thinking, like right now, yeah, make a list or don't, whichever works for you. But what can you do? Can you afford to get a cleaner if that's going to be necessary? You know, or can you just like, you know, start to plan your way around these things? Driving is another thing as well. Like, you know, maybe you need to start thinking about at some point getting an automatic, or like maybe you need to, like, you know, sort of start using the bus more, or whatever it could be. There's so many different ways it can all go. And I know some of these are financially driven, so you might have to think a bit harder or think a bit more outside the box to get around them. But it is important to start thinking about them sooner rather than later, because the longer you leave this, the more, like, as Terry said, no one likes surprises, and you don't want to find out one day that all of a sudden you can't do these things because you ignored it for as long as possible.
Yeah,
indeed. And I think, you know, to me, Mark, some of those are great points, but, you know, I think I'm thinking like maybe an 18-year-old might not be thinking about a bungalow or cleaning or even an automatic car. It's just, you know, what's the term is, the new trendy term is, you know, helping these younger people become adults, you know, adulting them, you know, so taking them from into the adult realm. And you know, as you say, you know, everyone can be proactive and think about, you know, what's the next step in their life. They might be a long way off grandkids or, you know, having children, because I think now, you know, people are starting to have children later in life, right? So it's you know, helping them think about, you know, what they might need to do to step into their career. You know, what's that going to look like? You know, it might be like at the moment they're still playing in, you know, under 18s football because they're a 16, 17-year-old teenager that's been diagnosed with arthritis. So actually they love playing football. So how's that going to look? You know, are you still going to be able to play? You know, it might be that, oh, actually, I love football. I'm going to do a coaching qualification.
Yeah.
So he's actually thinking about things like that and actually helping the younger generation think about what might be next. Because, yeah, they're a long way off buying a bungalow. But it might be like helping them think about practically, helping them with becoming an adulting.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually.
Yeah.
Even if people are at school or college or university, they all have disability advisors and people there to support them. And I think sometimes it, like we've said it a few times, it can take courage to do something. And actually just speaking to them, they might have some really simple solutions to help you carry on with what you're doing within university, within college. So your life or your social life doesn't have to change. And I think anything that makes your life easier, whichever it can take time to come to terms with, but whatever age you are, it's really worth tapping into, because like you were saying, Mark, you don't want to get to that point of no return as such. So starting early and thinking, actually, just because I have arthritis and I'm young doesn't mean I can't do this. These gadgets aren't just for older people. They're there to help anyone and to make life easier, and kind of knowing what's out there. But the way they're marketed, sometimes they are marketed for older people, but they can be just as useful for anyone.
Yeah, no, and Arthritis Action, we've got, me and Leah run our young persons online group, which runs on a monthly basis, which is a great way of meeting people in similar situations. And, Leah, you'll agree with me, actually, the people that come along to that are actually quite a broad spectrum of, people from different areas of life, different, they do different things, different ages, different stages. But also, I mentioned earlier, Arthur's Place. And it's a great social community that have absolutely fantastic information around all these subjects that we've talked about. So yeah, if you are a younger person with arthritis, that's a great place to go, because there's a lot of resources on there that will help you, I think.
Definitely. It's that not being afraid, isn't it? And thinking, because we say all the time, arthritis impacts people of any age.
Excellent. Cool. Is there anything else anyone would like to add before we wrap this up?
Not necessarily, but there are, without plugging ourselves too much, some of this is available.
Plug away.
Some of this is available for like personalised, tailored advice around sort of diet, around exercise. Is available, to members of Arthritis Action. We have a dietitian on our team that does consultations. He also talks about exercise and strengthening. We have our associated practitioner network. So we subsidise treatments with local, typically physiotherapists or osteopaths. And that's a great way of getting good, quick expert advice and access to services that will help you. There's more information on that on the Arthritis Action website.
And the address for that website is www.arthritisaction.org.uk. And if you have any questions as well, or any suggestions, things you'd like on the podcast, or any sort of just want to get in touch with us, you can do that via email at podcast@arthritisaction.org.uk. Brilliant. Thank you very much, guys. It's lovely to be back.
Thanks.
Thank you. It's great to be back for season 2.
Yeah. So more to come. So we'll leave you there and we'll see you next time. So thank you very much, everybody.